Sound check 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello and good evening. My name is Jake Hilton. I am the executive director of Arizona's only nonprofit LGBTQ plus newsroom, Lookout, and I will be your moderator for this evening's debate. The Citizens Clean Election Commission is the sponsor of this event, and as the state's voter education agency, Clean Elections is the official sponsor for Arizona debates. So voters have the opportunity to hear directly from the candidates, ask questions on the issues that matter most to them, and walk away feeling informed enough to vote. For all of our voters out there that are watching this debate live, just a reminder that you can always submit a question at any time in any of the following three ways. You can email us at debates@kc-a.com, text us at 408-302-1810, or you can give us a call at 480-937-1253. As a note, we may not be able to get to all of the audience questions tonight, but I promise we will do our best. Tonight, we'll be hearing from candidates in Legislative District 11, which encompasses parts of downtown and southern Phoenix. We'll kick off the evening by hearing first from a Senate candidate who will undergo a 30-minute Q&A session, and then we'll move to the House candidates who will debate their opponents for approximately 60 minutes, and finally, we'll conclude hopefully around 7:45 or so. Only the candidates currently debating will appear with their cameras and their microphones on. Before we get started, I'd like to lay out some conditions for a very successful debate. The questions tonight have been submitted by voters in the district, as well as have been crafted by myself and others over at Lookout. Each candidate will have about 1 minute for each of your opening and closing statements, and 1 to 2 minutes for your responses to voter questions, with a minimum of 15 minutes each to speak. While I want to encourage an open exchange of dialogue between opponents, I am also asking that you refrain from interrupting each other. If you would like to respond to a comment made by another candidate, once they have concluded speaking, please keep your rebuttals under about a minute. I'll be in charge of the hourglass tonight, so I may limit responses for the sake of time management. Lastly, I would like to remind our candidates and the audience that this is a respectful, courteous, and professional environment. Our goal tonight is to inform our electorate and connect candidates with voters, not to go viral or embarrass ourselves. So let's go ahead and get started with our Senate candidate. The candidates running for state Senate, which you can elect one of, are Republican Joshua Ayala, who is here with us tonight, and Democrat Catherine Miranda, who declined to participate in tonight's debate. In the House, voters can cast a vote for two candidates. Your candidates for LD11 are Democrat incumbent representatives Oscar de los Santos and Janelle Cavero, who are both with us tonight. They are accompanied on the ballot and in tonight's debate by Republican candidates Cesar Aleman and Joseph Daly. Let's go ahead and bring in our Senate candidate, Joshua Ayala. Welcome, Mr. Ayala.
Thank you.
Yeah. Since your opponent declined to show tonight, we'll have a Q&A session so that we can get to the nitty-gritty of what the voters really care about. So I'll go ahead and give you this next minute or so for a brief opener before we dive into questions.
Well, thank you, Jake, and thank you, Clean Elections, and all of the candidates for joining us tonight. My name's Joshua Ayala, and I'm running for state Senate in LD11, which consists of Guadalupe, Laveen, South Phoenix, and some of downtown Phoenix. I'm a lifelong resident of Laveen, and I grew up on 27th Ave in Ardmore. Excuse me. Sorry, my cat. And I graduated from Southwest School. I'm a Southwest Panther from South Phoenix. I went to Lutheran Academy, South Mountain, and then military school. I'm a graduate from Brigham Young University, Idaho. And I care deeply about this community. It's where most of, not all of my family live, and I care about their children and also the community, and that we can uplift it by working with one another and passing policies and enforcing laws that can make everybody feel safe and be proud of the community that they're from.
Wonderful. Thank you. If you're all right with it, just go ahead and I'll just go ahead and dive right in if you're good.
Yes.
So, Mr. Ayala, in a Candidate Connections questionnaire, you answered that the area of public policy that you are personally passionate about is taxes. Can you explain to voters what policy or policies regarding taxes are the most important to you?
So the policy of taxes?
Yeah, so what public policy around taxes is the most important to you?
Well, I think we should all be taxed fairly, and I think there should be a proper taxation, whether it's for consumer goods or or any type of tax. Well, also with our paychecks being taxed, and we work so hard that if we're just working to pay taxes and we have a little bit left over, I mean, what is the point of the American dream and being able to putting back our money into the community? Because the more we're taxed, the less we're able to improve our house, not improve ourselves, our health, and improve the the structures around us. So I think most importantly is, are we taxing the right things to put more money back into our pockets? I think about when marijuana became legal, where are all those where are all the promises and the tax dollars from that revenue that was supposed to come to us for that? I know I drive around and I see lines and lines and lines of people getting their marijuana, and I don't see the surroundings of where those marijuana businesses are improving. So I I agree, in a fair tax what that benefits bringing more money back to the worker, back to us who work so hard. And I'm in the financial business myself, and I see people living paycheck to paycheck, and it saddens me. I was in line at the bank the other day, and I saw this little old lady, and she had to ask the teller how much she had. And the lady said, "Oh, well, you only have $15." And I heard the lady whisper, "Well, I only have $15 till I get my next Social Security check." I don't want our residents to be like that, and that's because we're taxed very heavily.
Gotcha. Just as a note, with the taxes specifically on marijuana, so that is divided between the health departments, the Arizona Department of Transportation, community colleges, and police and fire. So, just within this last year, we're looking at about 29 million for community colleges, just under 25 for police and fire, just under 23 million for Arizona Department of Transportation, and just under 9 million for health departments. Um, in that, I mean, you talk about the importance of being taxed fairly. So, what do you believe? Uh, do you believe that Arizona tax codes need to be changed, and if so, which ones and how?
Well, I think I think any type of tax code should always be examined constantly on how it can be managed better. I think what we would have to do is, who's managing this tax code right now, and are they and who's managing them? I mean, what's the process right now? I don't know the process right now. I would need to look at that process, and with other professionals, and maybe hire some experts to make sure that we have the best tax code, and that we're being we're being effective always by constantly re-examining it. You said those taxes go to the police and the community colleges. um, I think we have a hiring shortage for the police. So what is that? Where are those monies being spent? I think we're in a shortage in many of those areas you mentioned. So why, you know, are we kicking back those dollars to other things that we need, like the roads need to be improved and other things like that? So to answer your question is, we need to examine who's in charge of that tax code right now. What is the process? Are we following best practices, and are we adjusting accordingly to where it benefits the state and it benefits the people that live in the state? Because any tax code should be, I believe it should be a win-win situation and not a win-lose.
So do you believe that the 27 million extra dollars that were allocated in the city of Phoenix to the police from the city's general fund was not spent correctly or not enough?
I wouldn't say that it wasn't spent correctly. I would have to look more into it. All I know is we have a hiring shortage for the police. I support the police. I think we need to hire more police. We need more safety in our area. So I couldn't answer that question unless I was given a breakdown of where those monies went.
Okay. Uh, in that, so you've talked about a couple of times how you are a finance guy. What do you believe is the most consequential economic policy that current Governor Katie Hobbs has crafted or approved in her first 2 years as governor?
I haven't seen her policy towards that. I would have to take a look at that.
Okay, so uh, just on that, so you're not aware of any of her policies, or you don't believe that she has any economic policies?
I haven't seen those or heard of her economic policies or felt it either.
Okay. Um, from there, uh, one of her biggest economic policies is committed to lowering costs, investing in public education, and securing water future, all the while also hoping to tackle affordable housing crisis. Is that not something that you have seen progress on, or do you agree with that?
I haven't seen progress on that, because I mean my own relatives they struggle. Like my Thea's AC bill, or my sister's and my Thea's AC bills were $700 last month. So I haven't I haven't heard that from the community. I myself live below my means, so I try to curb inflation, but I have not seen affordable housing or any type of decrease in that was implemented by her. I mean, I don't know how much power she has, but I have not seen it, or people that I know have not felt it.
And just also on that note, when it comes to utility regulation, a lot of that is based on the Arizona Corporation Commission, and that is sort of their job for regulation in how much each individual household pays. And so a lot of those spikes come from uh, the Arizona Corporation Commission alongside the energy companies themselves.
But you know what, Jake? I'm all about lowering the cost of living and housing. So if she's trying to implement those things, I'm all for that.
Perfect. So I guess regardless of party affiliation, jobs in the economy are one of the top three concerns for most voters across the state. With good cause, since Arizonas are currently suffering some of the highest inflation rates in the country. What would be your plan to help ease some of the inflation and its burdens on
Well,
Arizona families? Sorry.
that's a good question. I kind of mentioned earlier, I would work with whoever's in charge of allocating these funds that we get from things that we taxed, and working with them in working on some type of bill, or find out who's in charge of where the money gets allocated, and seeing if we can get some of that money allocated to the areas where people are hurting. And I mean, you mentioned food costs. I went to buy my daughter a bag of regular sized Doritos, and I paid about $6, and they used to be $2.99. And I was just, and it's not that I can't afford it, but man, that's quite a big jump. And I just thought, if I'm saying this is too high, others are saying it's too high and are feeling it too. So I would work with whoever's in charge of allocating these funds, and putting some of those funds to work for the people, and curbing the inflation as much as we possibly can, to where everyone wins.
So I do want to push back a little bit on that, just because I don't know if the voters were able to actually get a clear answer for that. So I think that what I heard was that you agreed with the fact that inflation is high, and that
Oh
you
yeah.
are seeing it on a consumer level and on an individual case, on a household case. But if elected, what would your plan be to help ease some of that inflation and the burdens?
Well, like I said, I would, things are, certain specific things are being taxed. You said money's going to community colleges and the police. Are they, I know there's a shortage in a few of those areas. We need those funds for these areas where we're hurting. So we need to allocate some of that tax revenue to help other areas of our budget, if whatever that budget is.
Gotcha. Thank you. I want to go ahead and take a quick turn and address a question that was submitted by one of the voters. What
Okay.
is your plan to address gun violence and mass shootings across our state?
Well, that's a good question. I'm I'm all for. I'm a concealed carry member myself. I'm all for, owning protection to tackle a situation like that. I would say we need to have more police officers that are in our school. I mean, when I was growing up and I went to high school in South Phoenix, we had a couple police officers that were assigned to our school, and I think that has been kind of taken away with the restorative of justice, where they just have a few, they have a few resource officers. I don't think they're real police officers. And just that's a great question, because I was just talking about this the other day. I don't know if you know this, but a kid brought a gun to Cesar Chavez High School, which is a high school in South Phoenix, and they posted on social media. No police were called. It was all handled inside the school, and from what I heard from my sources, the kid got a smack on the hand. He didn't even get a consequence for bringing a gun to school. I mean, that's a problem. And so I would say, to answer that person's question, we need more police in our school that are assigned to the school. It worked when I was in high school, and I don't know why that has decreased. And I think we should bring that back. And I think that would, make our schools a little safer again, from someone who decides one day they want to bring a gun to school and hurt people.
To follow up on that, what are your thoughts on the so-called common sense gun laws, regulation when it comes to for being able to own a gun. Do you believe that uh, any citizen over the age of 18 or even under should be able to purchase and own a firearm? Or what are your thoughts when it comes to that?
I thought isn't it 21 you can um you can own a
I,
gun?
I believe it is 18, or sorry, I believe it is 21. But I mean, there are plenty of parents out there who will purchase, firearms for their children, 16, 13, 15. So ultimately, just trying to get sort of your idea and your thoughts on being able to own a firearm as well as common sense, gun laws.
I believe that if you are below the age limit of owning a gun or even having a gun, that you should not have a gun. And I believe you should, if you get caught, you should be, you know, suffer the consequence of the law. If you're 21 and over and you can rightfully own a gun and you took the proper steps in owning a gun, I believe you should have every right to own a gun and, be like you said, the common sense and follow the law.
And also, I would like to go ahead and detract that. I just made sure to fact check myself. It is 18 years old to buy a gun in a private sales, 21 years old to buy a gun from a dealer with a federal license. So at 18 years old, you can purchase a gun in a private sale. So, uh, I think for that, those two things, do you believe that addressing common sense gun laws go hand in hand with addressing gun violence and mass shootings across the state?
Common sense gun law, yes, I believe so.
Great, thank you. Um, Want to go ahead and take another turn. I think that probably a lot of voters within this district, it is a big question on their mind. So I have one question with a couple of follow-ups. And the very first one is, do you agree that President Joe Biden won the 2020 election in the state of Arizona?
Do I agree if he won?
Yes. Do you agree that
Yes.
Joe Biden won the 2020 election in Arizona?
By the legal process of the voting system that's current, which yes, I believe that he won.
Okay. And so with that, how do you react to others running in your party who have run on a campaign of election denialism?
I, you know, everybody has their opinion and their feelings, and they have a right to those. I won't speak for them, but if there is a process that is broken and they feel that it's broken and that it was against them, I think because we are in America, they have a right to express that. And I I respect that, but I have not seen otherwise of at least from my point of view. So it's not that I don't disagree with them. I don't get involved I don't get involved in that.
So you take sort of a backseat stance to that is what I'm hearing. So with that though, you did say that everyone has their own thoughts or opinions or feelings and they have the right to express those.
Yes.
In that, I would like to bring in something that the Republican vice presidential candidate has sort of touted about immigrants eating dogs and cats and provoking identity-based violence. Um, there has been a substantial rise in identity-based violence and scapegoating with marginalized communities, namely, though, with immigrants and the LGBTQ plus community. How do you feel about the usage of such tactics and rhetorics? Because you just said that everyone has the right to say what they want and have their thoughts and their opinions, but is it correct when those who are members of your party are inciting violence against marginalized communities based on their thoughts, opinions, ideas?
Jake, no matter the party, if you incite those things you just said, hurting someone or something that is wrong or is a lie, and I'm not here to make accusations to people, but I am not about those things personally. I am a man of faith. I believe in loving one another. I believe in fair treatment, no matter what you say you are. I believe I don't believe in hurting, in specifically a certain segment. I know what it feels like to be segregated and from many angles. So I I do not support such a thing. Whether you're Republican or Democrat or independent, I will not have your back if you are preaching that.
So, in that, is it? I guess the next question that I would have for you is that as an elected official, it would be your responsibility to represent every single one of your constituents, including those who are migrants, immigrants, or those a part of the LGBTQ plus community. As a self-proclaimed man of faith, right? Would you be able to adequately represent your constituents and still hold your own personal beliefs?
Jake, I would be able to represent my constituents on the best way that I can in taking their feedback and working with everyone that has to do with the decisions. I still have my beliefs and what I believe in, but I do listen to the people and try to make the best logical, common sense decision that can be.
Appreciate that. I want to get to I've got two more questions for you. One of them is another question from one of our voters. What are your positions on Prop 314, which will legalize racial profiling and allow local law enforcement to enforce federal immigration law?
Well, as a I'm a believer of following the law, enforcing it. I If someone is here illegally and they get caught for being here illegally, they must suffer the consequence. Just like if we crossed over to Canada or other places illegally and they caught us, we would be subject to their laws. And if we want to call it racial profiling, I think that's not a right term to use. I think if you're here breaking the law because you came here illegally, you are subject to consequences, just like I would be if I did the same thing. And so to answer the question, I support that enforcing that law, because if you're breaking it, and you're here illegally, it's not right. And I know a lot of I have even my own family who properly came over here legally. It hurts them when somebody comes over here illegally because all the steps they took and the money they cost to get here.
So you said that you wouldn't use the term racial profiling, but would you say that there is any correlation or similarity between Prop 314 and the former SB 1070 immigration law, which was essentially giving carte blanche authority to racial profile? We've seen it done once before in Arizona. One could say that history has a tendency to repeat itself. Does Prop 314 give us another SB 1070?
No.
Okay. I want to go ahead. I've got one last question for you, um, and we'll end it with a bang before I let you get to your closing statement. So, 54% of voters surveyed across the state believe that abortion should be legal in all or most cases. Is there a point in pregnancy after which abortion should be banned?
I am so think that's a good question, Jake. I am pro life and pro family. I myself, I don't believe, I believe I believe that abortion should only take place if the mother's life is at risk or if there's a case of rape or any other incriminating situation. But I believe, and I'm a pro life. I'm a person that protects life. I'm a father. I love children. I think children are a blessing. I know couples right now who would kill to have a child and and would love to have one and to end a child's life because of they using the remarks, it's my body, my decision. And I get that, don't get me wrong. Trust me, I was raised with more women than men. I just had my dad and I have two older sisters and a mother, and I get it. But we I am we have to look out for that child too, because they're a blessing. And I'm pro life, and if that doesn't sit well with people, then I apologize, but I respect their views like they should respect mine.
Absolutely. And do you believe that there is a world in which you, as an elected official, can hold your views, but also not impose your views on the rest of your constituency or vice versa?
I, you know, I'm pro life, and you, as a elected official, I will still be pro life. And if people have elected me because they believe in the same thing, I will support. I'm pro life no matter what, even as elected official.
And so I guess just one last tail end of that question is, um, at what point do you believe uh, the fetus is a child, right? At what point in time, at how many weeks, if you would like to put a number on it, is that a pregnancy deemed a child?
I mean, first week, the week one.
Okay. Um, thank you so much, Mr. Ayala. I like to give you another minute to give the voters your closing remarks before we say goodbye for now. So whenever you're ready.
Okay. Yeah. Jake, thank you for all the questions. Some of them were really, knee busters, which is good. Um, just, I'm I'm all about the people in the community, and I know I can help lower the cost of living, make a safer community, better schools, better future, parental rights, pro family, addressing the homelessness. I know there's a lot of things that needs to be worked on, and I'm a person that will, try my hardest to work for you and do the best that I could do. And I want to thank everyone for hearing me out. And I I hope you have a blessed day.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. A big thank you once again for your time tonight. We're going to take just a very quick break, but we will be right back for the House section of tonight's debate. All right, everyone, we are back. As a quick reminder for all of our voters that are watching this debate live, I do just want to make sure that you know that you can submit questions at any time in any of the following three ways. You can email us at debates@kc-a.com. You can text us at 408-302-1810, or you can give us a call at 480-937-1253. So without further ado, let's go and bring in our House candidates for LD11. Please welcome Representative Oscar de los Santos, Cesar Aliman, Representative Janelle Cavero, and Joseph Daly. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
The order in which the candidates will speak has been determined by alphabetical order by last name, starting for opening comments. Closing comments will go in the reverse order. So, Mr. Aliman, if you wouldn't mind starting with your opening remarks, about
Sure.
a minute.
Definitely. Well, my name's Cesar Alaman or Aleman. We just want to say thank you for this opportunity. And so I've been in this district, District 11, since 1992. I was 9 years old. So it's been about 30 years already that I have been in this area, and I love it. This is my home. And the reasons why I'm running is because what I've been seeing, what not what I know, but not only what I know, but what I see and what people see, and just talking with people and talking with our community members, just hearing them out just gives me a reason to run. I'm in the people business. I work at church, and that's I'm full-time ministry. And so just have the privilege to get to work with people day in, day out. And so just thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Cavero, if you wouldn't mind.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Representative Janelle Cavero. And for those who weren't at our primary presentation, I just wanted to share that I am a working mom that has lived in the district for a very long time. My two daughters attend public school here in Phoenix, and when they get out of school, I'm the one who picks them up. The reason that I'm running for the state house is because I know how hard our families in South Phoenix and Laveen, Guadalupe are working, and I'm one of them. And I talk to those families every day. Honestly, we deserve so much more than what we're getting. Gas prices, rent, cost of groceries are just out of control. We need to build our economy where people can afford to live. In the legislature, I'll fight to increase the minimum wage, provide grants and tax incentives to help our small businesses, bring and create more good paying jobs in our district, strengthen our protections against our workplace discrimination and harassment, protect the rights of our workers to organize and join unions, increase funding for homelessness prevention programs and supportive housing. I'm invested in our community, and I want to see it thrive for my children and the families around us. We're living in a very stressful and uncertain time. We need leaders that will fight to ensure that we are safe and we can overcome this affordability crisis. I would be the state representative that brings your voice and your interests above everyone else's in the state house, and along with my colleague here tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Daly.
Oh, me.
Yes,
my name
please.
is Joseph Daly. Sorry. I've lived in South Phoenix since 1996. I have one child in school. I got 4 kids, and I'm running because I believe in the potential of the South Mountain community. I live the challenges that most of us face, the opportunities, and I believe in the growth of South Mountain. But I also believe our voices haven't been heard for too long. Growing up a Democrat, lower economic status, Democrats come around every 4 years and ask for a vote, but I never saw any solutions. I saw what happened during Carter. I saw what happened during Bill Clinton, and I feel the Democratic Party has moved to be one of the elitist corporate leaning oppositions out there, or parties. So I want to be a leader who brings real resolutions to the legislation for the middle class. I am a middle class Republican. I work middle class. I grew up middle class. My goal is to ensure that everyone, regardless of background, has the opportunity to succeed, feel safe in their home, on the streets in South Phoenix. One example, just recently, we lost our Del Taco at 48th Street and Baseline because it was plagued with homeless people. People wouldn't go there. They stopped. The workers lost their job. The owners lost everything they put in to that facility. So stuff like this weakens our community. There are many issues that I hope to talk about tonight, how it is being weakened and how we can build it back up. So my campaign isn't about me. It is about us. It's about our families. It's about my kids. It's about your kids and our jobs in the future to build a safe and supportive South Mountain community.
Thank you. Representative De Los Santos.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me, Clean Elections. Thank you, Jake, and thank you to the other candidates. My name is Oscar De Los Santos, and I have the honor of serving as your representative in the Arizona House. A little bit about myself. I am the proud son of hard-working, working-class immigrant parents from Mexico. They raised me to be honest, to work hard, and to give back. With the help of my parents, a loving community, and strong public schools, I was able to go to college, work my way through college, and eventually earn a Rhodes Scholarship to study at the University of Oxford. I was taught to give back. So when I graduated, I came here to South Phoenix. I served as a 6th grade public school teacher and later as the director of public policy at the Arizona Food Banks. In short, my life is a testament to the American dream. But today, that dream is farther and farther out of reach for most families. The cost of housing is soaring. The cost of healthcare is out of control. But unfortunately, the incredibly extremist MAGA Republican legislature is doing nothing to solve your problems. Instead, they're wasting your time and taxpayer dollars on banning books, ripping away women's reproductive freedom, and spreading false and frankly ridiculous conspiracy theories about the election. I have been dead set and laser focused on fighting for solutions that bring down housing costs, that bring down healthcare costs, and I have never shied away from taking on the special interests and the big corporations that are jacking up prices for you and your family. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, everyone, just as a reminder, I am going to be in charge of time today. So my hope is that everyone can keep your answers right around the 90-second mark, up to about 2 minutes. But if it goes any higher than that, I will immediately cut you off. And I promise not to be rude, but we got a schedule to keep, and I want to make sure that we can get to all the points that are important to the voters. So I want to go ahead and dive right in. And if I could, I will start with Representative Junot Cavero with this question. So with the 1864 abortion ban repeal officially going into effect this week, and 54% of surveyed voters believing that abortion should be legal in all or most cases, is there a point in pregnancy after which abortion should be banned? And if so, after how many weeks?
Hi, Jake. I just had to unmute myself. It's simple. That's a no. There is, in a situation when we are dealing with reproductive rights, and that this is coming through from 1864. This is a different time. And as a mother of 2 daughters, I hope my daughters have the same rights as I did. And unfortunately, our opponents at the legislature disagreed. The polling is clear in our district. They support women to make their own choice on reproductive freedom. The reality is that women's reproductive freedom should not be made by male politicians. You mind your own damn business. I'm sorry. But when it comes to age, you're splitting hairs. Splitting hairs. And the truth is, you need to give women their own choice.
Perfect. Thank you. I want to toss this over to Caesar, if you wouldn't mind answering the same question. Ultimately, is there a point in pregnancy after which abortion should be banned? And if so, after how many weeks?
Jake, I am pro-life 100%. For me, let's call it how it is. Abortion, what it does, even if you look at dictionary and Webster's dictionary, it's going to tell you what abortion is, what the killing, the death of a fetus, of a baby, of a living human life. And so I will always be 100%. And you said the data shows 54%. That's a half and half of the state in Arizona, I believe, are pro-abortion. Other ones are against abortion, and I am one of them. I think I'm all for women's rights. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes to the death of a human life, whether inside the womb or outside the womb, it's wrong.
Thank you. I do want to just make a quick clarification. So it isn't a 54 46 exact breakdown. But we are looking at about 54% of those who were surveyed believe that it should be legal in most or all cases,
Right.
with about 5% or so in that not sure realm, leaving just about 42% as believing that it should be illegal in most cases or illegal in all cases. Just want to clarify that one point, make sure that it wasn't just a clear, definitive line between the two. Mr. Daly, if we could have your thoughts on this.
So I am a pro-life candidate. I believe in protecting life while respecting the dignity and the rights of every individual. I understand that life is precious, and I believe abortion should not be used as a method of birth control. However, when difficult circumstances arise, it should be rare but safe. What I won't do is take the extreme positions, as you just heard, like some Democrat colleagues who support abortion with no limits, 9 months, third trimester, cut the baby out. As in the case of 9 states and the District of Columbia, this is a troubling, extremist idea that I oppose. But even more concerning are those propositions being drafted that could allow abortions up to 26 weeks after birth. These are real issues that are being addressed today and deeply troubling that I am firmly opposed to. These extremist policies do not reflect our values, the values of this community, the values of family and respect for life, and is at the heart of who we are. My commitment to stand for life with compassion, ensuring that we promote policies to protect the most vulnerable among us while supporting women and their bodies and the families in difficult situations. And to your point about probabilities, less than 13% of America support abortion at 9 months. So it is not just all or nothing. There are limits here.
First off, thank you. But I would also like to point out that abortions are not happening at 9 months, and none of the candidates in this forum at this point in time have ever mentioned that they endorse or would like that being done, nor 26 weeks after birth, which is exactly what you said, which is, I am not done. Thank you. Thank you. So at this point in time, I would like to ask all of our candidates to make sure that we are not using inflammatory language or spouting lies, and that we are answering based on our beliefs and our views, not on things that we think or rhetoric that is being passed around. I'd like to go ahead and jump this next question over.
That was
Thank
false.
you so much. Thank you so much. I am going to pop this over to Representative De Los Santos. Will you vote for the Arizona Abortion Access Initiative, which would legalize abortion past the current 15-week mark and allow abortions up until viability or longer to protect the health of the mother?
I will proudly vote for Proposition 139. Yes. This question is frankly a simple question. And the fact of the matter is that the decision to have an abortion is one that should be made strictly between a patient and their medical provider, period. Nobody on this call, no politician, no candidate, no government official has the experience or the qualifications or the medical training to tell a patient whether or not a medical procedure is appropriate for them. And I want to be clear, because this is not just an abstract debate. Yesterday, we learned of a heartbreaking story out of Atlanta, Georgia. A woman named Amber Nicole Thurman, a loving mom who was a nurse and who had a 6-year-old child, was pregnant, had a complication, and because the state of Georgia had a draconian abortion ban, died. Not because doctors didn't know how to save her life, not because they didn't have the technology to save her life, but because there was an extremist abortion ban on the books. That child, who is 6 years old, is going to grow up without a mother. That is unconscionable, and that is exactly why we need to pass Proposition 139.
Great, thank you. I would like to go ahead and toss this over to Caesar. We've all seen a lot of divisiveness over the last few years when it comes to ideologies or political parties and identities. How do you feel about the usage of such tactics and rhetoric when it comes to for identities such as those who are immigrants or the LGBTQ plus community?
Right. We should love all. That's basically it. Jesus, for example, I'm a man of faith, and Jesus teaches me to love everyone. This doesn't matter where you're from, what color you have in your skin, your culture, your identity, how you identify yourself. At the end, it's about loving each other, and we have to be respectful. Saying now that I said that, I think there has been rhetoric on both sides, and this has to be about the people. This has to stop about the party, because it's not about the party. It's about who we represent, the community that we represent, and when we look at the Constitution, it doesn't say we, the Republican Party. It doesn't say we, the Democratic Party. It says we, the people. And it is important for us to focus and keep our focus on the people, on our community, try to bring everybody together. We can compromise, guys. There's things that Democrats do well. There's things that Republicans do well. There's people that from all cultures, and I'm an immigrant. I'm Mexican. Joseph is Italian. I'm sure we can make something out of that. Something cool. And Oscar, I haven't met him, but I met Janelle. She's a great person. But we can work together. With this rhetoric really has to stop, and we have to start saying, what is our priority? Is it me, or is it them? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And so I guess just a quick follow-up on that is,
Sure.
So what I heard you say, or what I believe I heard you say was that the rhetoric and those tactics don't have a place in politics right now.
No. I mean,
correct?
We need to start thinking about our nation. We need to start thinking about our state. We need to start thinking about our community, and we need to see how we can. I think that our community is tired. Our community is tired from when I talk to our community members, they're tired of all the bickering that's going on here and there. We need solutions, and that's what we need to bring. And those are the kind of candidates or people you want in the state and in running your country. People who are going to bring us together.
Awesome.
So yes, that's my answer. Yes.
Thank you. I want to toss this over to Representative Cavero, because I feel like you might have something to say, but I've got a question for you after you.
I do. You must be like reading my mind. History with identity politics. Back we would talk about issues, concerns with the parties, and they were, on certain sides of the aisle of certain issues, but identity politics helped those who were then run by, white male leadership over the history, didn't really understand communities of color, didn't understand the issues that were facing us. As someone who was raised by union members, veteran family, immigrants, and I'm Catholic, there are different values for each that we fight for and that we believe in because of the experiences that we have. But we can't always, part of identity politics is educating those of the differences in order to embrace our differences. And as part of what Alaman was saying, it is to help work together. but you can't work together if you don't understand who's sitting next to you and understanding their upbringing and their background. So to me, yes, unfortunately, this year or in the last two cycles, we've used identity politics as sometimes as a football in certain ways on the national spectrum, but on the local level, I mean, you're basically saying if you don't have it, you don't have, Spanish language, lit. You don't have Spanish language, videos to reach and communicate to those. Our district is over 56% Latino. And more importantly, it's 86% multicultural. For our district, identity politics, that's us. So for me, and someone who fights for multicultural communities by day and at the legislature, that's important to me. And I think the discussion, it needs to be had, but it also needs to be done in a respectful way. So
thank you. You pretty much answered my question, but I actually think I want to toss this to the other two candidates as well. Joseph, if you wouldn't mind answering that, and I'll repeat it for you just so that it's there. So we've seen a lot of divisiveness over the last few years when it comes to ideologies, political parties, identities. How do you feel about that usage of such tactics and rhetoric? Do you feel that they have a place in politics?
I think it's disgusting. I am a family of immigrants, second and third generation. I grew up in a very heavy Italian neighborhood where the majority of people were not Italians, but people that do that promote victimhood. And we, no matter what our race, creed, sex, religion, whatever, cannot let this make us victims. We need to stand up. As I did as a kid, I fought, sometimes physically, but fought for my education. I fought to go back to school. I put myself back through school twice, and I never let that victimhood attack me. So I will fight those from any party that promotes identity politics. But I don't see that most from my colleagues. I see that most from where I grew up, from mostly the Democrat side. So I think it's important that we fight this at both ends. But I will say the comments at last addressing abortion, I take offense to because it feels like I am moderating, I am debating you. And I don't want to debate you because you were wrong on a couple of points. I never said those other candidates were faticide, but they never listed a time. They are open, and according to what I hear, there is no limit on what they said for abortion. I will limit that. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. I want to toss this over to Representative De Los Santos because, I think that it is extremely important that we are focusing on identity in this. A lot of this has been about cultural identity, but I think that what's extremely important too is that other marginalized communities are not being used as scapegoats. And we have seen a lot of that. So same question to you. How do you feel about the use of such tactics and rhetorics? Do they have a place in politics?
Absolutely not. They do not have a place in politics. And while I appreciate the members here of the Republican Party saying that, what I would like to do is hear them say that they disavow former President Trump's recent remarks saying that immigrants are eating cats and dogs. I mean, those are the kinds of specific examples that we're talking about. And so it's one thing to sit here and say kumbaya. It's another thing to stand up to your own party and to tell somebody to knock it off when they are spreading violently racist and xenophobic lies. And they're putting people's lives at risk. I think we're seeing news reports out of Ohio that the Haitian community is being attacked, it seems, sometimes physically. And what I would also like to see here at the state level is, again, everyone is saying, well, we should all get along. But here's the thing. Arizona is one of the states that currently does not have a statewide non-discrimination act. So right now in Arizona, there is no state law that prohibits a landlord from evicting a tenant simply because they're gay. There is no law that prohibits an employer from firing somebody simply because of their gender identity. And I have put forward that legislation, and Democrats have put forward that legislation year after year after year, and it is tossed in the trash can. So it's one thing to have this nice talk. It's another thing to walk the walk. And so what I want to do is to call on my colleagues to specifically disavow President Trump's racist and xenophobic comments regarding immigrants. And by the way, the Arizona Republican Party has put up billboards around Phoenix echoing those lies. And I would like to hear my opponents disavow those lies. And I would like to hear my opponents say that they would, if elected, vote to pass the statewide Non-Discrimination Act so that every Arizona, no matter the color of our skin or who we love or how we identify, has the opportunity to succeed and to work and to thrive without fear of discrimination.
I want to give the other candidates an opportunity to respond. There were a couple opportunities that it looked like some people wanted to. Joseph, you're shaking your head. I'll let you go first.
I am opposed to any discrimination. I also don't want to make laws that simply to make laws that give special accommodations to people based on discrimination. When we make laws for one group that benefit one group, it is discriminating against another group. I think this is a very sensitive conversation. I have many LGBT friends. I don't care. I have been approached by more men looking to have a situation with them, and they go, well, I thought you were gay. No, I am accepting of you. You are my brother. You are my kin. You are a soul. I accept you for who they are. And those are the policies we need to promote. And if there is a promotion of a legitimate law that where we can avoid discrimination, yes, I will vote for it. I will support it. But I won't vote for laws that give special accommodations to some people, which literally means discriminating against others.
Thank you. Cesar Janelle?
Well, I was just gonna say, that's why I said that both sides needs to stop. And I have no problem going against our, telling our party, hey, this needs to stop. And so we do, and I think both sides need to do, and both sides need to call their party out. Not just one. Don't wait just for the Republican Party to call their party member out. The Democrats need to do the same thing, and we've seen it, we've heard it, and we're not going to stand here and just lie about it. We have to speak the truth. Both sides are doing it, and we need to call both sides on it and say, hey, this is not going to bring us together. This is not going to bring solutions. This is not going to help our American people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In my eyes, the use of identity politics has been abused in so many ways. And, it was the purpose was to elevate and uplift communities. And now we've sliced and diced every single possible way to a point of pure lies. And an agreement with Representative De Los Santos that, it's unfortunate that top of the ticket has abused it the most and used it in a way, in a tactic that I know many don't agree with it. It's just for marketing ploys. It's really the number of views, the number of clicks, how many things can we memes and create, to abuse this form of communication. And it's unfortunate. And I hope we can get back to a place where we respect one another.
Thank you. I want to go ahead and turn the ticket a little bit. And I'm going to toss this over to Joseph. I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you believe that Arizonans should be required to show a photo ID to vote, even when dropping off a mail-in ballot?
I think we need to know who's voting. Voting has been abused. I walk in, if I get pulled over for speeding, I have to show my ID. I have to go into a federal building, I got to show an ID. There are many places I have to show my ID. I don't understand the burden of ensuring one of the most fundamental and greatest rights we have are to vote for who we want. And why we cannot protect that is beyond me. Protecting it with a simple identification. If somebody can't afford it, then let the state provide them for free, which I believe we do. Correct me if I'm wrong. There is no way that somebody cannot get an ID. We have multiple accommodation. So it is to protect our voting, because too many people have been found that are dead, out of the grave, that are immigrants, that don't have the right to vote, that do vote. So I am in full favor of an ID to vote.
So with this, sort of a follow-up question with that is, with with what am I trying to say? So with this, it does have ample discrimination against other communities. Specifically, I want to have a conversation about what this means for the trans community, right? So with having gender markers changed on their own identification, with their IDs that may not match their presentation, that may cause issues at the ballot box. What do we do about that?
That the ID may say male and somebody whose gender ID is female showing up in a dress. I think those could be taken as provisional ballots and validated. If we want to have something added to IDs that say, my gender is this, I identify as this, that's fine. But I don't think there is enough of those situations that outweigh what's going on with people that are voting or in multiple voting in our elections. Again, this is our most fundamental rights, and we need to protect it. So I am all for trying to address those with other measures. If somebody has an ID and somebody questions that, put it in provision that it can be looked at. If that person is who they say, regardless, male, female, weight, if I'm 120 pounds and I go in and I put some weight on, are they going to challenge me? Hopefully not. So I'm all for working ways to make sure that we do not discriminate, that we don't leave anybody else, but we need to make sure that people are not voting who should not be voting.
Thank you. Want to toss this to Caesar. So voters from both parties told a Clean Election Survey that they want their lawmakers to work more with people across the aisle to find solutions. I know we've touched on that a little bit, but do you believe that this is your job as an elected official? And if so, how do you plan to sort of lower that temperature of the us versus them?
Well, like I said before, I think we need to come together, work together, do what we're supposed to do. Be accountable for what we're meant, or we were voted for to do. Whether that's to and create policies to be of a support and a help and a voice for the people. And so yeah, that's what I would respond to it.
Thank you. Representative Cavero, want to ask you this because I know that your tenure in the House hasn't been as long as Representative Santos, so he might have a leg up on this, so he doesn't get to answer. So I want to pose this to you, right? I mean, do you believe that is your job as a lawmaker to try and find solutions across the aisle? And how do you plan to sort of lower that us versus them temperature?
So we're pivoting from the voter rights question. I just want to make sure.
Voter rights was one question. I'm pivoting over. Yeah.
Look, I agree with Aleman. It would be great to work together. It would be an ideal situation. Even though I only did 8 weeks in the legislature, it was a good front seat watching folks disagree with one another and also having a certain form of communication with one another. But at the end of the day, when you're trying to push good policy, but you're putting party over good policy, that's not working together. And a prime example is ESAs. We didn't touch ESAs at the legislature, even in the budget. And that's the biggest hole we have in our darn budget. And it's frustrating to see that everybody knows that the biggest economic, hole in our budget and where we're losing money is on ESAs and on this voucher scam, frankly. And, being able to work with one another to agree to find a better public education, program and fund our public education, but also work with what we're dealt with. And again, it'd be great to work with one another. I look forward to working with a lot of the Republican legislators. We had great conversations, but again, if you don't push good policy and work together, you're just sitting there, and it's a waste of time for everybody. Waste of time and money.
Thank you. I want to pop in a question that came in from one of our voters. So I'll toss this over to Representative De Los Santos. What is your plan to address gun violence and mass shootings in our state?
That's a terrific question. I'm going to take just a second of this time on the last question. I didn't get to answer.
Go ahead and take, I'll give you about 30, 45 seconds if you're okay with it.
Thank you. I think it's incredibly important to work with Republicans, and I have. I mean, you look at my voting record, I have supported dozens and dozens, maybe close to 100 or more Republican-backed bills, and I have voted in favor of them because when I'm voting on a policy, I don't say, is this a Republican bill or a Democratic bill? I say, is this a good bill or a bad bill? And I have been, proud to support, for example, what was called the Prop 400 extension, the biggest transportation and infrastructure bill that Arizona will see currently. I was proud to support the extension of what's called the Arizona Commerce Authority, which is the agency that brings and attracts businesses and jobs to our state. And those are wins that I helped deliver working with colleagues across the aisle. So that's just one thing. The second thing is there was a claim that dead people are voting. That is not true. There is no evidence for that. Even a commission that was sponsored by President Trump, who made the claim, was unable to substantiate that claim. And so they didn't find evidence for that. To the question about gun violence, unfortunately, listen, we need more bipartisanship on this issue because Democrats have introduced bill after bill after bill on gun violence prevention, and they go nowhere because the Republican majority doesn't let them go anywhere. So we need common sense gun violence prevention laws. We need background checks. We need to make sure that people who have been convicted of domestic violence offenses don't get their hands on dangerous weapons that can kill their spouse or their partner. We need to make sure that we have red flag laws so that people who are experiencing acute mental health crises don't have access to deadly weapons. We need to make sure right now there's a law that actually prohibits pediatricians from speaking with their patients and their children and their children's families about how to safely store weapons. So those are just some of the solutions on gun violence protection that we need to start to implement, and we need to work together, because if you look at the polls, and frankly, if you ask anybody in Laveen or South Phoenix or Guadalupe whether or not we should implement these policies, the answer is going to be yes. They are wildly popular, but more importantly, they're wildly effective, and we need to be saving lives.
Mr. Alleman, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
Well, I mean, I'm a proud gun owner, and I think, but at the same time, I know gun violence myself because we were, just 2 months ago we were shot at outside my house when we were having dinner, and that's a world we live in. But we got to go to the root of the problem too. That we have for example, the school shootings. We have a mental health issue going on. This is not the same, our kids are growing more different now than we were probably 20 years ago, or 40, 50 years for those, that age applies for. But we have a mental health issue problem, and that has to be one of them. I mean, we have background checks. For me to go purchase a firearm, I have to have a background check, and so we just got to make sure that those are being implemented. And it's just to keep our kids safe. I have my 6-year-old who goes to public school, and I think about it too. We all do, You know, something that is hitting Republicans and Democrats and independent voters. It's hitting everybody. We all have that concern, you know, and again, we got to come back together and see how can we get this going, you know, and keep our kids safe. So, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Daly, what would your plan to address gun violence and mass shootings in our state be?
Well, one, work across the aisle, as we're stating here. In my job, I work globally. I work with people across Europe, Asia, Korea, Japan, from multiple. So I think we need to get together, but there needs to be certain laws that are enacted. I think the biggest problem where gun violence came up is where we got rid of the institutions, the health institutions, where people that have mental health issues can be supported and helped. So red flag laws, I'm for, but I am not for limiting the access of guns to legitimate, sane, everyday people. The other thing is, I think we do need to harden those soft targets. We need to provide funding that keeps schools locked down during school. Do we need resource officers? Yes, much more. Do we need maybe metal detectors as you enter? We need mental health support. We need harden our targets so they can't be attacked, and we need to bring back some of those health supporting facilities to help those that are having mental issues.
Thank you, Representative Calero.
Creating safe schools and enforcing background checks do not prevent law-abiding citizens from purchasing guns, and they shouldn't. So it's long time past to pass at least one common sense gun violence. It's so frustrating to, see this gun violence prevention measures continuously being denied. And to address the public health crisis of gun violence that takes lives every day. Just this past year, former Representative Longden introduced a bill in 23 called Christian's Law, which was a simple bill that asked guns to be stored at home when it's not on your person or in use. It should be stored in a safe, secure lockbox or be equipped with a key or a combination lock. And the public overwhelmingly supported this legislation, along with universal background checks and severe threat orders of protection. For some reason, our legislature couldn't pass that because they again think that they are going to prevent and take guns away from us. And we also need, yes, more counselors in our schools who can often spot issues and before these issues may turn violent. But at the end of the day, we really need to pass one form of gun prevention measure in the legislature, and that's by working together.
Thank you. Mr. Alleman, will you support Prop 314, which will legalize racial profiling and allow local law enforcement to enforce federal immigration law?
You know, Jake, the 314, and I haven't really studied that much, but I agree from what I read. I would agree to some point of view. So some parts and some parts I won't. I think unfortunately we're here in this mess because there's just a mess in the border, and something needs to our laws need to get enforced, and I'm all for that. Am I for racial profiling? No, but will racial profiling continue to happen even if this law proposition doesn't pass? It's still going to happen. This is not going to stop racial profiling. And it's our human nature. We're all discriminative in one way, whether we do it intentionally or unintentionally. We're discriminative, in whatever, but I will tell you, Jake, from my answer is some parts yes, some parts I don't agree with, but I will have to review it and find out.
Thank you. Representative De Los Santos.
I will not be supporting that. I will not be supporting that proposition for a couple of different reasons. One, as you said, there is a very high likelihood that the manner in which it's going to be implemented is going to lead to racial profiling. And actually, behind the scenes, I was working or trying to work with my colleagues across the aisle to write the law in a different kind of way that would have prevented that from happening. They rejected those changes. So I believe that this is SB 1070 2.0, and 1070 was a disaster for our communities, for our families, for our economy. We saw businesses flee the state. We saw workers flee the state. And that's why many, I think every single major business group in the state opposes this proposition. The Chamber of Commerce opposes the proposition. The Association of Small Businesses opposes the proposition. And in fact, law enforcement doesn't even support the proposition. And the reason that law enforcement doesn't support the proposition is twofold. One, when you implement this kind of racially discriminatory policy, you have people of color who are less likely to cooperate with the police on investigations. And number two, you are shifting the burden of immigration enforcement from the federal government to the state. And do you know how many dollars this includes to help support that? Zero. So you're asking law enforcement officials to take on an extremely heavy burden that literally no other state in the country has ever taken before, and giving them absolutely no support to do it. So law enforcement opposes this, the business community opposes this, the civil rights group oppose this. So I will be voting no.
Thank you. Mr. Daly.
I don't know the law, so I would have to look at that to make a comment specifically about that. But about racial profile, it does have significant drawbacks that have to be addressed. Violation of civil rights, profiling has been abused. Many studies shows it's ineffective. It doesn't work. It's harm to the society, the cohesiveness, racial profile, depending on the society or where you are at. It's a tribalism. I'm in this tribe, somebody else is in another tribe. And whether it is black, white, Hispanic, I will tell you, I have been racially profiled myself for things that weren't true. So while sensitive to it, the right allocation of profiling terrorists, if you're looking for somebody, a terrorist from a certain country, you are going to look for certain attributes. But it is attribute based off of facts that need to be done. If I'm attacked, I have a police officer comes up to me and says, "Who attacked you?" Well, a person. Is he tall? Is he short? He's a person. What kind of clothes? Yes, he's wearing clothes. Is he black? He's white. He's a person. I have to give attributes and understand what those attributes are, but we have to make sure that we're not blanket profiling an entire society. Look for a black person driving a car, guilty while driving black. No, that needs to be eliminated. But we have to be cautious that we don't throw everything out. But we do have to protect our citizens within those tribes that are not a part of our tribes.
Thank you. Representative Cavero.
Proposition 314 is very bad for Arizona. It's a huge waste of money. It'll cause Arizonans to pay over $1 billion. State will have to make choices like increasing taxes. They'll cut maybe over 13,000 teachers from public schools, less money for hospitals and services, less money to fix our roads. This isn't about border security or stopping fentanyl, which is what they try to say when they say a safe Arizona. What it is it's a bill attacking on hardworking communities. It's making law enforcement enforce a federal immigration law that you can be pulled over at a gas station while you're picking up your kids. We've been down the road before, like our representative said, SB 1070, and it ultimately, at the end of the day, does cause a lot of racial profiling. And Maricopa County is still paying over $300 million to settle the lawsuits against Sheriff Joe Arpaio related to SB 1070. This is going to cost a tremendous amount for all of us. And at the end of the day, don't let them fool you. And again, it's an attack on hardworking communities.
Thank you. I want to take something that Representative Cavero had mentioned a little bit earlier, and I want to jump over to the education section. I want to just talk briefly about ESAs. So the Arizona's empowerment scholarship accounts will allow students to use taxpayer money that would ordinarily go to a public school to attend a private school instead. Lawmakers passed this legislation this year to open up ESAs to all 1.1 million students in Arizona, and education advocates are attempting to refer that law to the ballot. Do you support the extension of ESAs to all Arizona students? And if so, how do you explain the overwhelming vote to not do that just 4 years ago? Caesar.
The ESA program, from what I've known, it's just a different way that our kids, our children in Arizona can learn. I grew up in public school. My son goes to public school. My daughter went to public school, and I'm all to support public schools and provide them the funding and just making sure that that funding is designated to our teachers and is designated to our students. I'm all for public funding, school funding, but the ESA is just a different way that our kids can learn it. I've worked with youth for about, I think in church ministerial wise about 20 years, in the secular world 11 years. For nonprofit, I work with youth, and from what I understand through my experience, that all kids learn different. There's kids that are pretty good in large groups. There's kids that don't do so well in large groups, and we have to be honest with ourselves and say we need to help this child the best as we can. If that ESA program is going to be able to do that, let's do it. If that's going to be either through private or homeschool. Of course, obviously, just like public school, there has to be accountability. That doesn't mean you spend money just like that. We want to make sure that funding is being utilized and designated properly. So that's my
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Daly, do you support the extension of ESAs to all Arizona students? And if so, how do you explain the overwhelming vote to not do that just 4 years ago?
Well, we have to look at what are some of the concerns, what are some of the benefits. One concern is that you're taking public funds away from the school. But I will tell you, as a parent in an area, if my child does not go to that school, why is that school benefiting from my funds that should follow my child somewhere else? Those are my funds for my child to learn. Let me put that child somewhere. Another opposition is lack of accountability. I will tell you there is not a lack of accountability because the parents hold that school accountable. If a school is not teaching that child, that parent takes that child to a school is benefiting. So it's not just the dollars what are they being used on, but how they are being used. So they are best used by those institutions that are doing better. Equality issues. People say, well, there's inequality, but I will tell you that's a red herring. The actual empowerment of the ESA is for the low and middle class, that I can take my child and move it to a school that is doing better, that I am not being handcuffed to a certain area. The school choice, the ESA programs give parents, give the voters, you, more control over your children's education to put them in a school that you need. And it's tailored education. Children have special needs. If my child has special needs, I can put him in a school. If my child is succeeding and going ahead, I can put him in a smart school. If my child struggles, I can put him in a school that has special attention for those needs. So yes, it fosters a healthy competition between public and private schools. Those that teach children best survive. Those that can't, they're gone. So this, to me, the ESA empowers you. It empowers the lower to middle class and is more benefit to those lower blue-collar workers than they are to the white collars, because the white collar can afford to move their child. So yes, I will support ESA programs every day.
Thank you. Representative De Los Santos, so do you think that the ESAs should be expanded in any way? And would you vote to eliminate the ESA program altogether if Democrats take control of the legislature?
I think we should back up here for a second and understand the history of the ESA program. 4 years ago, the public, the people, the citizens had a vote on whether or not we should have ESAs in the state of Arizona. Over 60% of Arizonans said, hell No. Unfortunately, the Republican-led legislature and the Republican governor decided to ignore the will of the people, go around the will of the people, and enact the law anyway. And it has been a disaster and, frankly, a scam. Let me just give you some examples of how your taxpayer money is being utterly misused. We saw just this week a news report showing a parent using an ESA voucher looking for a, quote, flat earth curriculum. That is ridiculous that your taxpayer dollars are being used to buy a curriculum to teach a child that the earth is flat. I mean, we might as well get your tax money and light it on fire. This is ridiculous. Second example, there are safety concerns here. When you go to a public school, the adults who work there get fingerprinted and background checked. That is not the case at an ESA school. So the adults who are working around your children, frankly, potentially could be pedophiles and criminals, and you will not know it. That is a safety concern that we need to address. Finally, there's absolutely no academic success metrics for the ESA program. So your kid couldn't even know how to read, and we don't know how they're tracking against other students. We don't know how they're tracking against other students, not just here in Arizona, but across the country and across the world. We need a competitive workforce for the future. We need a smart and educated next generation. The ESA program does none of that, and it frankly just funnels money away from our public schools into this scam. And this is especially pressing because earlier today, even the Republican superintendent of public instruction admitted that we are dead last, worst in the country on school funding. And because of that, we have some of the worst academic success metrics here. So I believe in supporting our public schools, supporting our public school students, supporting our public school teachers, making sure we're building up our public school education system so that all students can succeed in the future. And if I may, just my last point here, Mr. Daly said that it's his money, so it should follow his child. One, what if you have no children? And two, let's extrapolate that logic elsewhere. Well, I don't drive on 35th Avenue, so I shouldn't pay taxes that maintain 35th Avenue. Where does it stop? That is not how public investment works. Public schools, again, are an investment.
Got to cut you off because you're at time there. I apologize. But I do want to toss this over just because we're going to wrap this up with Representative Cavero. So do you think that the ESAs should be expanded in any way? And would you vote to eliminate the ESA program altogether if Democrats took control of the legislature?
Just to let you know, yesterday, if you didn't follow, the Arizona family had mentioned that we are currently now ranked number 50 in the United States on education. That's unacceptable. We need to place blame where it came from. We have had a Republican-controlled legislature since 1965, over 50 years in the House, that has systematically underfunded our public education system. Now they create an ESA voucher scam that has taken money directly away from our kids, teachers, and parents who work and depend on our public education system. The first step is to eliminate this voucher scam. This is bleeding our public schools dry. And we need to invest in public education to reduce our class sizes, improve our facilities. We need to advocate for our teachers' salaries, for higher pay and better working conditions. We need to support tuition-free community colleges for all Arizona residents. And ultimately, our kids have the right to a good quality public education.
Wonderful. Thank you. I want to give just a really big thank you to all four of our candidates. I know that it was a pretty hefty hour-ish plus. Oh, I'm sorry. The Zoom does the magic on there. I want to go ahead and make sure that we can give some time for closing statements. We're going to go in reverse order that we did. So we will start with Representative De Los Santos, about 60 to 70 seconds.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in and watching. Democracy is a beautiful thing. Thank you to my fellow candidates for being here tonight and to the Clean Elections Commission. two things we didn't get to talk about: housing and healthcare. I have been leading the fight down there at the Capitol to take on the corporations that are jacking up housing prices and screwing you over. One of my proudest accomplishments was on healthcare, actually. I introduced the bill to cancel medical debt. I believe that healthcare is a human right and that no human being should be broke or bankrupt because they got cancer. I introduced the bill when the Republicans rejected it. Governor Katie Hobbs enacted it via executive order, and we now have the biggest medical debt cancellation program in American history. So thank you, Governor Katie Hobbs. I've been an effective advocate, and believe you me, I will always, always, always put you and our hardworking families over the corporations, the special interests, and the lobbyists. I hope to earn your vote this November. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Daly.
Hi, my name is Joe Daly. I am a product of an immigrant home, second and third generation. I have lived in this valley since 1996. I love this area. There are some things we did not get to talk to about, affordable housing, you're right, healthcare, water shortages. There are other social issues, the gangs in the area. We need to address those. My approach to address the community is to put the people in power. I don't believe that we need to funnel more money into politicians, into what they want. I think you as an individual are able to better decide how your family, how your children should grow up, what they should do. It is our job to keep you safe. And my funding of police forces, yes, but we need to reduce the taxes overall in areas that should not be addressed by our governments, by our politicians. Am I for ESA? Absolutely. I think the parent best knows what the child needs, not the politician. Do I think immigration needs to be addressed? Yes, but we need to do immigration with compassion for those coming in, but not everybody who comes in needs or deserves compassion. It is hurting the immigrant, our South Mountain community. They're taking jobs, they're taking houses, they're making it harder. They're going into our schools when they cannot speak the English language. They use our healthcare services as their medical care. We need to take care of Americans. I am for you, the middle class. I grew up blue collar, lower blue collar, and I have advanced myself through education and through working and through pulling myself up. And we all need to do that. We all need to address each other as individuals.
Apologize to stop you there. But
okay, but thank you for joining.
Thank you. Representative Cavero.
Oh, thank you everyone for joining. We've discussed a lot of issues in a short period of time with a wonderful group of people who I do respect, even though we have differences. As a mother, one thing I did want to bring up is that we didn't talk about public safety, which is a high priority in our district. There's a myth that communities of color are anti-police, which is not true. We just want our communities to be safe. And we need police reform and more accountability. And as a state legislator, we have the authority to improve our recruiting and training process for our police officers and first responders so that they are in sync with our community. People in our district have shared that they want us to invest in our first responders who have input and background and knowledge of our district. We also need to support programs that will make our communities safe and livable. So I just want to bring that out as our close, as part of our close, but I really hope you consider supporting me and giving me an opportunity. I know I had 8 weeks this year, but I'm really excited if I have an opportunity when we come into the next legislature with so many more ideas. And I look forward to meeting everyone over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you so much. And to wrap it all up, Cesar Alaman.
Well, thank you, Jake. Thank you, Clean Elections. Oscar, good to meet you, brother, and Janelle. Just know that scripture for us reminds us to pray for those that govern us. So we'll be praying for you. We do pray for you guys. But that being said, I'm to the people, you have heard my stance, and I'm here to serve you. I'm here to be the voice for you. Like I said, I serve people day in, day out. I don't need a political title to serve in public. I don't need to serve people. It's in my nature to serve. In my heart to serve, and I thank God for that overall. But there are issues that need to get fixed, and I'm here to help and come together and bring solutions that Arizonans need that are being affected by it in a negative way. Because I'm being affected. Because before being a candidate, I am a husband, I am a father, and I'm a worker here in this beautiful state. But I'm here just to serve and make Arizona better. So just thank you, guys.
Thank you. A very, very big thank you to all of our House candidates for attending. The voters and myself greatly appreciate your participation. This will now conclude our debate. But once again, to all of the candidates that showed up, we want to thank you all so much for participating. To the voters, we thank you all. We thank all of you who took the time to watch this debate and to inform yourselves before the election. We encourage you to visit azcleanelections.gov for official, accurate voting information. Good night.